Tech Effect.
Welcome to Tech Effect, a monthly podcast series brought to you by TestDevLab. I'm Adrian, the host of the podcast, and together with industry experts, we provide discussions and advanced insights about trending topics in software engineering. Don't miss out on new episodes, and let's keep advancing our skills and knowledge set.
So, welcome everyone to today's episode of Tech Effect. We're excited to have a special guest today, Co-CEO of Mapon, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and basically, his name is Ingus Rūķis. Perfect. And he brings over 2 decades of experience in product development and technology. So the journey started at the core of Latvia leading social network, correct?
Yep.
It was called CTO.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us your story. What decisions led you to that point?
You mean like the career in tech or?
Yes.
Well, then it's how to say, like historic timelines. I already decided that my career is IT or tech based in high school. I mean, like I was going into the grade 10 or something, and that was my first PC, and it was slow, etc. No games were running on that, and then I just decided that hey, let's build something, and that's how I started. And then I started building stuff for myself. I started building stuff for the friends, for family needs, etc. And then eventually I chose the career going into the college education for programming, and eventually bachelor's degree and master's degree in computer science as well. And then at some point you just need some work experience, and then I decided that I'm going to be a developer. I started in Latvian television some years ago.
So it was which year? What year it was?
Oh, it was something like 2003, so
okay,
it's more than 20 years ago.
So it's basically the start of IT technology and boom in Latvia.
Yeah. And then Draw Game Social Network was founded in the year 2004, I think. Yeah,
2004.
And I joined the company at something like year 2005.
Okay.
And I was starting. I thought myself as a very good developer, etc.
But at that point in time, developer, it was quite new, right?
Well, yeah. My mother even didn't understand what I'm doing on a daily basis, and her expectation was that I'm gonna have a career in some governmental enterprises and so on,
like a doctor and stuff like that.
and eventually I said that I'm going to work for a social network, and she was asking, what is that? I mean, are you sure? Is it some sort of scam or something?
Is it a stable job for that at that point?
Yeah. And she was really trying to convince me that it's not a good idea. But I was understanding what's happening at that moment already, because the social network was around for something a year or even more. And then I joined the team, and I understood that I had to learn a lot, because the colleagues that were running that were years ahead in my opinion in terms of knowledge. And then I just started to educate myself a lot and having lots of practical experience and actually developing myself.
When you started at Draw Game, how old were you?
Oh, I'm year 1982. Okay. So currently I'm 41, so it's 19 years back, so it was something like 22 or something.
Wow, 22. Okay, that's quite early.
Yeah.
And what was the most challenging part at that time?
I think it was the case that currently we have lots of development tools, lots of open source tools, which are there are lots of cloud solutions and lots of technology available. At that point in time, it was the case that you had to build everything by yourself, and that was really challenging. That there were no people really capable of scaling solutions as fast as we were growing. So currently we have the AWS and all of the cloud providers
providers,
lots of technologies which were not available at that time. So that was really challenging.
And how did the company overcome at that point that challenge?
Well, it was a bit of a struggle, obviously, but the guys were really eating ground at that point in time, and really doing the best they can, doing lots of tests and things like that. But if you look back at that time, also the clients, the customers were really forgiving, because it could be the case that you press the button, let's make a friendship on the social network, and then we had the background processing like processes running, which were like confirming the friendship 24 hours later on. So you just cannot really imagine that happening in like modern days. But that was really like the start of the technology. It was a new stuff that people were really forgiving. Lots of technical issues. So it's
I remember the old design that DraugML has, just like simple username, password, and that's it. And like
yep.
Simple logo, and then open up, and it's like
it's
really,
always fun to look
so
back
simple,
and see what's
really
how did it look like.
So after DraugML, you managed to go where? What was the next path?
It actually was like quite a few different paths inside DraugM, because I was also responsible for various projects, for the business pages, for the social gaming inside, where I was also responsible for attracting game developers, etc. And then I was eventually leading the development team and so on. And then year 2014, it was a management experiment. We had several companies in the group, and it was a manager's rotation that the management decided that it's the right time to do a rotation of the CEOs for all of the companies. I was not at the CEO role at that point, so I was a CTO, and basically I was having an opportunity to join Mapon. And I would say that was like a moment when I was considering what is the next step of my career in general, and it was a great opportunity to find out what Mapon is doing, and I eventually fell in love because it's like a totally different like technical complexity. Because if you think about social networks, it's mostly like comments, galleries, maybe some other stuff. But at Mapon, it's a completely different like technical challenge.
So describe Mapon. What is Mapon for viewers?
Yeah, Mapon is a fleet management software provider. We also manufacture our own hardware, and what essentially we do, we install hardware devices in the vehicles, and we gather the data from the vehicles and process that in the software platform. So essentially, our core customer is a transport and logistics customer, which is running a fleet of vehicles. Like the sweet spot is about 10 vehicles, and the biggest customers that we have are running fleets of around 10,000 vehicles.
Okay. So when you became the co-CEO at Mapon, what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, it's been quite a wild ride, to be honest, because it was the case that Mapon was a stable business at that time, and like the reason for the change was actually putting the Mapon into the growth shoes, and making sure that the company is not really like having 10% year-over-year growth, but accelerating to 30% year-over-year. And for the past 5 years, we have been successful at getting this growth rate. And if you are growing at 30% year over year, then you can imagine that there's lots of interesting challenges. And then when we were starting to lead the company, we were something like 26 employees. And in August, we celebrated the milestone of 200 employees. So it's not much if you compare to some other fast-growing companies, but for us, it's still like a very, very high growth, and given the challenges, then you have to like scale up yourself as well quite a lot.
And how did you manage the work-life balance at that particular point when it was all scaling up? Or there wasn't any, as it always is.
You mean it's? I mean it's always a challenge, but you have to learn how to like put work aside once you are off from work. It's not always easy. Obviously, I had also a lot of business travel, which was somewhat exhausting. Now I'm doing that a lot less. But yeah, I still manage my private life as well, so it's all good.
That's the best thing. And can you share maybe some professional failure stories that happened during those years as CEO? If any happened, because as you said, it was a wild ride, right? So
well, obviously, if it's just a software business, then it's one thing. If it's also including hardware aspects, and for us, it's also a challenge that it's not like stationary assets that we're tracking. Eventually, if you put tracking device on the vehicle, and the vehicle is moving and probably returning to the base location after half a year, then it's like if you mess up the hardware, then good luck catching the vehicle. So it's been really wild in terms of the hardware as well, because you cannot really predict all the things that you need to test and validate.
Okay.
For example, we had a case that we were producing a hardware and there were specific race conditions. If the truck is going on a ferry, it's underneath the ship inside the sea level. Like the mobile operator coverage is very weak, and the hardware was really rising the signal output strengths. And eventually, for some of the GSM module versions, it was causing actually a burnout. And in order to catch that, that's really something that you cannot really reasonable test on
So it's like real life testing happening at the same point.
Yeah,
and you just fix it on the go.
Yeah, and that's really, like, I would say, one of the biggest challenges, that it's very, very hard to test things. If it's a software test, then you can do that in the office, and it's all good. But as soon as the testing is happening in all these race conditions, on the ferries and in the tunnels and all of the rest of the cases where the vehicles are driving, that's really a challenge. And obviously, in some of those occasions we failed, but the thing is how you manage the failures.
So do you have like a testing team that takes the hardware, puts in a car, and drives around with the car? And
well, we do that obviously. We do that obviously. We have our own technician fleet, which is running the vans and doing the installations, and then we put all what's possible on their fleet. Then we obviously have some key clients which we have agreed with, so that they do the tests on their vehicles in their conditions. But yeah, that's obviously bringing some challenges and failures along the road.
How do you come up with innovative ways to test the hardware? Because you need to all the time test it a lot.
Well, we just come up on a daily basis. I mean, like, there's no I don't
no
know,
wrong decisions.
no wrong decisions and no right path that you can follow and be successful at.
So if someone comes with a new idea that, hey, we should test it that way, you're not skeptic and
not at all. I mean, like, we do lots of interesting tests. I mean, like, even putting, I don't know, 10 tracking devices on a single vehicle and trying to compare whether the routes are the same, whether the drive behavior analytics are the same, and so on. So it's
interesting. Yeah. How do you keep your team motivated and aligned with all the things happening?
Well, that's probably some sort of a leadership question, that you have to be open to the challenges. You have to make sure that the team understands that we have to fix the things that are ongoing issues.
Okay.
And it's all about motivation. I mean, you just have to be positive yourself. Even if you understand that there is a trouble underneath, you still have to be positive and assuring that you can actually fix the problems. But I would say that the team is also really highly qualified, and they are really running the projects that they are responsible for.
What kind of books, for example, or literature have helped you to grow your leadership philosophy, for example?
If you're asking myself, I'm really
yourself.
a book reader, and I also have a Goodreads profile. I can share that. You can add that in the comments as well. But I think the Goodreads profile has something like over 100 books. So I've been
how long period?
I don't know, probably something like last 15 years or something.
Okay.
So I was reading 20 books at a year. Once I was really scaling up myself, and now I'm reading less. Now I'm reading maybe some 5-7 books a year. But that's something that I really believe that's scaling you up as a person. That you have to read, you have to understand. It helps with your language. It helps with your writing skills, which are essential. So, yeah, that's really something. From the last books that I've read, I think the Atomic Habits is the one that is the most influential, and I've taken quite a few of the tips and tricks from that book. But yeah, there's lots of stuff that I've read.
Okay, we're gonna drop that in the comments, so people can find it and see which books are good and which not. So yeah, okay. If we're talking about the ISO for the Mapon, right? Could you tell me more about the overall ISO certification and what was the process for the Mapon to get certification?
Yeah, it's been something like more than 3 years ago when we started the certification. Okay. We actually upgraded to the latest version just last certification cycle, and the reasoning behind that was that we are a very data-focused business, and customers are trusting with their most confidential information. I mean, like if you know where the customers are loading the trucks, unloading the trucks, where they are going, then you can eventually like squeeze into their business and understand that, hey, maybe I can take over some of their business. And
they're not doing this right. I'm going to take over.
No. I mean, like that's really how they perceive us. They really perceive us as a core business tool, and really.
So you needed to make a trust with them, so they see that you actually are like doing everything right.
Yeah, and that's really the case that. Most of the corporate or enterprise level customers are asking some sort. They have some security teams or something, and they have some forms that you have to fill before signing the deal, and eventually, like the more you get into this enterprise segment or big customer segment, the more of this you receive, and then eventually you just understand that it makes sense to get certified, because that just brings off the table something like 90% of the questions that are regular questions.
So at the start of the company, it was 2014, 2016?
Yeah, six. Like okay. Mapon is 18 years old.
Mapon is 18, but you started 2014. Yeah. So the certification happened already at what year?
It was something like year 2020, probably.
So it was a quite long journey without any certifications.
Yep.
So when you introduced it, how did like the, I think maybe you answered, but anyway, how did you obtaining certifications impacted the Mapon product development and overall business operations?
Sorry?
How did the obtaining ISO certification impact Mapon's product development and overall business operation?
I would say that we were touching the subject of having a wild ride, and I think that from the company perspective, it just made sure that we are not really having like really too much freestyle in the development processes, because like the certification requires you to like use proper tools for making sure that you can keep track of the changes, etc. You must have the disaster recovery plans, etc. So it was really the case that are we sure about the business continuity ourselves? And this was really like the reasoning that we must be sure, because we are here for the long term. We're not like a one-day company. And from the business perspective, it was actually really a marketing tool just to attract the bigger customers. Mm-hmm. And it really helped, because like if you compare yourself with the competition who doesn't have the certification, we were actually noticing that competition was getting the certifications year or 2 years after us, because they understood that it's really
they saw the impact that you actually are getting more clients and everything's working great for you, and they understood that they did as well.
Yep. Okay. So that's really and our business is also pretty much focused on the Nordic countries and so on, and now what we see next is that they're also asking for the environmental certification and so on. So that's really like something that just the market requires, because they are somewhat pushed into this direction. For example, the environmental aspects are really tightly connected with the CO2 emissions, and they have to be environmentally friendly. Okay. If that's a like fleet of trucks, then environment is like a really big thing in reporting that they have to include, and they really push the providers also into this direction. So it just all makes sense from the business perspective as well.
So what was the specific challenges when you started the certification process?
Well, I think it was
and how long it took. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think it also depends on the project manager, the commitment, and the company commitment itself. I think it was the case that we had a project manager which was trying to run it, and it took something like 9 months, and then we changed the project manager, and it took 3 extra months. But once that was really
it's basically a full year since the start.
Yeah, it depends on like the company size, on the maturity of the company. But for us, it took something like a year, like 9 months of some work, and then 3 months of like really focused work and full-time work for that. And it took like. There were some challenges in actually we didn't have any written policies, the security policies and so on. So some part is just the documental, and the other part is actually doing the educational training for the employees and doing internal audits and checking that we actually like work according to those procedures that are written now.
So did the company structure also, infrastructure change also when you got when you were getting the ISO certification?
Well, it did. definitely.
Okay, and yeah, good idea. So, do you believe that every company should pursue ISO certification?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Why? Why not? Why yes and why not?
If each and every competitive company would be having an ISO certification, how would we be different? I mean, like for the competitors, let's just stay uncertified, and we will have like competitive advantage. But no. I mean, like to be serious, I think it's really some sort of like a thing that you have to do, and especially if you are in the data business and analytics, etc. If you are processing sensitive data for the customers, if you are processing the personal data, then you should be in this business in this certification. If you're working with very small customers, probably that's not really that important. If you are like working with bigger customers and enterprise clients, then it's definitely something that you must have, because like if you look like, I don't know, a few years back, 5 years back or something, like the cybersecurity was not really a hot topic. And ISO 27001 is really about making sure that also the cybersecurity risks are being handled properly. And if you are like not having those risks, then that's all good. That's fine. If you have those risks, then you should be properly managing them.
Okay. Okay, interesting. I'm just thinking now. How difficult it was. So it took 12 months together, and how difficult it was for everyone in the company.
Well, I don't think it's really hard. It's more about the focus and the commitment. And if you are committed, then it's pretty straightforward. The big challenge is probably if you are like big in terms of the headcount, big in terms of the processes.
So how many people you had at that time?
I think it was close to 100.
Okay.
So if you are under 100, I would say it's pretty easy to obtain and so on. The bigger you grow, the more challenges there are, definitely.
Okay.
And that's also related to how many different tools you use, how many like risk assessments do you need to do. If you're a smaller company, then it's a lot easier to get the certification from the start rather than when you grow up, I don't know, to 200 employees, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, then it's really like a few years project just because like, there's lots of moving things there. Okay. And also, like one thing that I would like to point out, it's also like the attitude with which you implement the certification. One thing is that your goal is to mark the checkboxes and make sure that you have the certificate.
That's probably not the correct approach, right?
Yeah, that's what some companies do, and that's what we have seen also in some of the companies. But I think that the real challenge is implementing the certification like as it should be, and then it's really the case that it's the hard part.
So if there are startups and small companies, what advice would you give to the startups if they're considering the ISO certification, or shouldn't do it?
It depends on the stage. I mean, like we consider ourselves even 18 years old startup. so it depends on what you mean by a startup. But eventually, I would say that as soon as you get something closer to 25, 50 people, that's something where you can start considering that. Yeah. Or if there is like very specific business that you are like,
that requires it.
Yeah, that requires that.
Okay. Interesting. 18 years startup. That was a good one. And when the startup going to end? When is it going to be a full-time?
I think it's like, in my opinion, it's really a mindset. It's not really like a stage of the company. So, yeah.
Okay, and let's switch to something else. For example, how do you approach decision-making when it involves high stakes and uncertainty?
Mm.
How do you approach it?
Well, it's the case that you have to understand the risks of doing something and risks of not doing something, and then you just understand whether there's a higher risk of doing something and whether there is a higher risk of not doing something, and then you just basically have to do the decision, and that's it. I mean, like there's no like receipt for that, and also one thing to consider is that any decision is a better thing than no decision. If you are not making decisions, then you're stuck at some point, and that's really the case. That even making a decision that there is no decision is some way forward.
So, when you was at Draugiem LV, I don't know how to pronounce it properly in English. I'm confused.
We can just use Draugiem, and that's
Draugiem, yeah. So, when you were at that company, you were technical, you were a developer, right?
Yep.
So, how did you switch over the years to like people management side? Because right now you're a CEO.
Yep.
So, how did it happen that, because some people start as programmers, they're all life working as programmers, they never switch to actual people management roles and stuff like that. So how did it go for you?
Well, that's a separate topic that we can discuss for days probably.
Okay.
But just to be short, like every career path is good.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you are willing to be a developer, you shouldn't be getting into the people management roles, because that's a totally different role. Like the computer is doing everything that you say to him.
Yep.
The person
Because
almost never does.
Some people are introverts and some are extroverts, and there's a lot of like people saying that programmers are introverts, but I think that's not true.
That's
That's just
I was also in that mindset years ago, but
Okay.
I was thinking that because I'm myself an introvert, and if you look around, then you notice that it's actually not the case. I mean, like the developers are. There are so many developers which are even in our company are getting on the stage, playing music and doing lots of crazy stuff.
It's just social skills.
Yeah, it's just social skills. And eventually, if you look like 20, 30 years back, then probably that was mostly the case. But nowadays, that's not really like true anymore.
And you can always improve your social skills
Yep,
by
definitely.
reading books
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, but about this transition from the developer to people management part, that's really like a tough challenge, and I see that also for other people as well, because it's like there's a thing that is that you're really good at, which is programming, and then there is a thing that you have to learn, and that's people management.
So you were a web developer
Yep.
at that time?
Yep.
Okay.
And basically you just every time you have to switch this role, and then you better continue coding, writing code, because that's what is like your bread and butter and that you know very well. And then when it comes to managing people, then it's really like something you have to learn, and then you slip back. And that's really the case that we see in like other people as well. It's really like a tough thing to move into.
Because you need to talk to a lot of different people. You need to understand their emotions.
Yep.
Understand how to give a better response, ask the correct questions, right? So that's. Can you learn it? Can you learn it?
Definitely. Here I am.
So after the web developer, you were a development team lead.
Yep.
And then you happened to be here as a CEO.
Yeah.
That's a long journey. It's a long journey.
Well, it's been 20 years almost.
Yeah, wow. And what are the main key takeaways from those 20 years?
Well, I think it's the learning mindset. That's really the case, that you have to be open to new ideas, new knowledge, and if you are stuck at some point, then you are, I would say, dead.
Okay.
in terms of the career development. And if you are open to continuous learning, like reading books, reading articles, learning new technologies, learning new skills in terms of managing company or ways of setting goals or whatever, then that's what is bringing you forward, and that's really the mindset that I have, and whatever the change is coming in my direction, I'm open to that, and that's the way to live.
Okay. And what strategies, for example, do you use to disconnect from work and recharge your personal time?
I have kids, so that's one disconnection area. I mean, like they have some activities, and then I'm just joining them those activities. The youngest one is starting to drive a BMX,
Okay.
and it was a challenge that he was not riding a proper BMX bike, and he was riding his own bike, and I had to put him on a BMX bike, and the way I did it, I stepped myself on the BMX bike for the
Okay.
first time at 41 years old.
Wow. Did you do some tricks as well?
No.
Just riding.
Just riding. I've been riding a mountain bike in the forest for quite a while ago, and then it's the same thing. It's just a smaller bike, and you know the basics.
What type of bike were you riding in that one?
Like MTB bike, like the regular one.
Bikes are good.
Yeah, and it's always all these small tiny details that you spend the time with the family, with the kids, and I also have a funny story about learning to play guitar.
Okay.
I bought a guitar for the 30 years like men's crisis.
Okay, everyone at some point probably buys a guitar.
Yeah, and I had it for 10 years in my shelf, and I took it out for something like once a year and tried to learn some songs. And then eventually I read this Atomic Habits book,
okay.
and then there was this trick that you need to make the like good habits as easy as possible. What I did, I took a guitar course and paid for upfront for all of the course. And the first thing I did on the first like lesson, I also bought the guitar stand and put it next to the couch.
So you actually see it every day, and it reminds you.
I see it every day. It's like I can reach it with my hand when I sit on the couch, and that was really it. And that's how I learned to play guitar, because like every time I go back from work, I sit on the couch, I see guitar, I pick it up, and I start playing.
I was already thinking you would say, yeah, so, but still I didn't learn it. That would be a good one. To set up all the things and eventually but yeah, I still don't know how to play.
No, that's not the case. It's the case that you have to be like, you have to understand what's the reason why you're not learning the thing. Either you need some help. For my, in my case, it was the like guitar teacher. Also like the commitment that I'm going to learn it, and also like the good habits that you just set up in your workplace. And that's
you need to understand what type of pullbacks do you have, and to work on those things, so you can improve it. So that's actually a good idea to with the habits, that you put it near a couch and all the time you see it, and it reminds you subconsciously that you need to actually take action.
Start playing. Yes. It's the same also about the negative habits. I mean, like if you are eating too much sweets, then just make sure that you don't buy them in the shop, and that's it. You don't have them at home, then you don't eat them.
But no, that's actually probably quite hard for other people, because you can like open up and food delivery apps, order everything you want. So that's again another habit that you need to like probably delete it. But yeah. So interesting. So regarding the Mapon, can you share? So it's 19 years. Company's 19 years, yeah.
Yep.
Correct. Can you share maybe some insights of future direction? Because it's been, as you said, it's still a startup. so what are the future insights, direction?
Well, we are really growing right now, and we have also shifted the strategy a bit in the last years. I mean, we have two business directions. We have business direction which is focused on our own direct clients and on the partnerships, and for the last years we have been working specifically on more on this direct client direction. So eventually, most likely we will be more geographies, because this business is also requiring local presence. We do have currently branches in Denmark, in Finland, in Estonia, in Lithuania, and in Spain. Also having some operations in Mexico. So I would expect that we would be having more direct operations in several more countries. It could be some Nordic countries. It could be some Western European countries.
Is there any idea maybe to go to America as well?
It depends. It depends on the like.
Because America is actually a huge market compared to all the Europe. It's
really what's important about Mapon is that we are very focused on regulations, and the European Union is very regulated in terms of the transport operations, where we are pretty good at with our products, and so in that sense, just jumping over to America without our knowledge on the compliance issues and all of the rest of the stuff, which is like legal regulation, etc., that's really like a long shot. So in that sense, it would make more sense to focus on Europe, where we are already like present, where we know the regulation, and we just have to adjust to some countries' specific regulations. But I would say that America, although a big market, it's a completely different thing from the regulation perspective, and then it's like you must have foot on the ground.
Yeah, probably a long shot term.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a really big market too.
It's like every market has its own benefits and challenges. I mean, like if you're talking about European market, it's crazy how many languages and regulations we have, and it's really for the business. It's really tricky to make sure that you handle all those local languages and local things. If you're talking about United States, then you go with the English and that's it. You're all good. and there are some challenges in Europe, but that's probably also some sort of a thing. If you solve it well, then you're very good at it.
What are like the biggest challenges in Europe?
I would say the regulation and the regulation changes. I mean, like there's lots of regulations which are affecting the transport sector. You have to report the CO2 emissions. There are driving times for the drivers, how much they can drive in a day, in a week, and you probably need a math degree to understand properly that. And the drivers never have the math degree almost. Then there is lots of regulations about how new vehicles should be manufactured, what features they need. So like lots of regulation. Then there is GDPR regulation, and then I would say it's quite a burden for the business. In one way, it's a burden. In another way, it's also like opening business opportunities. For example, we do have products that manage compliance with the EU regulations. And the customers really need those products, and that's really a good thing. So there's a certain business segment which is actually built on top of these regulations, which are like helping.
So regarding the ISO certifications, so how many certifications you have right now?
So currently we do have ISO 27001, which is the Information Security Management certification, and currently we have it in the headquarters in Latvia and also in Finland and Spain. Initially we started with just Latvia, and then we extended the certification also to the branches. Now in the next certification cycle we will also include Denmark and Estonia as certified branches.
Okay.
But nevertheless, that they are not certified right now, we still operate according to the same principles. I mean, like it's just a certification and making sure that we are certified with all of the locations. And eventually, if you have like multiple geographic locations, then it's the case that if you say that headquarters is certified, then most of the customers are happy with that. So it's just a tick in the box. But we also plan for obtaining and currently are working on the implementation is the ISO 9001, which is the quality management certificate, and also 14001, which is the environmental certification, and the reasoning behind that is like it's procurements in some of the occasions that require either you have an ISO 9001 or similar quality management system, or the same thing about the environmental policies and so on. And it's the same thing as with the information security management certificate, that either you answer 100 questions, either you just provide the certificate and answer 10 questions. So it's like efficiency in the way you move forward.
So is there any other certifications that you also are considering apart from 9100 and 14100?
Not really right now, because you have to understand that the compliance and making sure that you like properly manage those certifications just takes time. And you have to be very cautious whether you don't slow yourself down too much. And due to this, we really like understand what's required. And as long as we don't see that necessary, then
So what's the process for 9100 ISO certification?
So the process is similar to any kind of certification. You just do an internal audit, understand where you are, and for us the 9001 was pretty simple, because even after implementing the 27001, it was the case that you understand that you actually have lots of things already in place for the quality management, like the development processes and so on. Also, we have pretty good state of things with the customer support. We do have ticketing system, we do have surveys on the response qualities and so on, and also client claim management. So that really is the part which is already functioning, and in our opinion it was the case that we already have majority of the things required by 9001, and that's really like the things that were missing in the internal audit that we discovered were actually the things that we were willing to make like better in terms of the business as usual. So it was just a case that there is some external push and external reasoning and external recognition for the things that we already do and do good, and yeah, just makes sense.
So for everyone wondering, the first certification that you got, it took 12 months nearly.
Yep.
So 9 plus 3 months.
Yep.
Because change of
Yep.
people. But for these 2 certifications that you're trying to get, how long it would be approximately? Do you have any estimation?
I would say it depends because like we think in the direction that we are not doing them separately. We
Okay.
just adjust the schedule with the internal audit for the 27001, and we just plan backwards when do we need to start doing things in order to make sure that there is one audit which is covering the 27001 on all of the new certifications. So it's just the case that you also need to be efficient in terms of making sure that you're not running these things as independent. They are connected, and that's really a good idea that if you have one certification, then you just adjust the processes so that you like add additional certifications in the same processes, in the same cycles, and so on.
Okay. So does that mean that the more certification you have, the more trust you will have with the partners?
Definitely. I mean, that's really the case, and even now we receive questions from the partners. Hey, you have this 27001 certification. Do you have 9001? And then we can answer yes, we will have it in January.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah,
for the company,
definitely.
for
I
the
mean, like
company
that's in our case, that's really one of the like key things that we see as a key like reason why we are able to work with key accounts and enterprise level customers.
Okay. So for everyone who actually is considering to improve customer relationships and to get more customers, ISO is the way to go.
And that's the external reason, but I would also like to emphasize this internal reasoning,
Okay.
that you are like sure about the state of things in terms of IT, disaster recovery, and business continuity. So that's really also like that's how you can actually, as a CEO, can disconnect from work, because you know that things are in place.
You can sleep well.
Yeah,
at
I can
night.
sleep well, partly because of that. I know that we have proper on-call procedures and things like that. That if something is going to be wrong, then people will take care of it.
How hard it was for the Mapon to introduce the disaster recovery?
We're still in process. I mean, like there's lots of stages where you can go. Like just in this August, we actually run proper disaster recovery tests. We actually sent the infrastructure team to a remote location without any connections to the like primary data center, and we said that your duty is to recover the system if the main data center is not available and you're not allowed to connect to any like of your work machines or something, and you need to recover the platform. And they actually succeeded. And this is really like a big milestone that was taking a year or two just to make sure that we run everything properly. And from that perspective, now I'm sleeping like a baby. But that really is a thing. And this ISO 27001 certification, if you do it properly and if you do it right, then it's actually the thing that pushes you in that direction. And that's where I really see the value in that. It's somebody external saying you what you should be doing.
Well, definitely there's internal and external factors, but it seems that internal factors are even more valuable for you as a CEO and the whole company itself, because as you said, if you can sleep at night really good, it means a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
We did have some serious incidents years ago, and one of the cases was actually, you cannot ever imagine, but that was a New Year's night. 31st of December, 1st of January. It was something like 2 years ago, and one of the databases, like the core databases, went down, and at that time we did already have the proper on-call procedures, and the team was running it, and we eventually recovered even without any data loss. And that was also a signal that we are doing things in the right way. And if we wouldn't have all these procedures, all of these processes, and all the things that we made right during the certification cycle, I would say that would be like probably a question of whether the business survives or not. So that's really about making sure that the business is here for the long term.
Yeah. So a lot of different things you already had at place before the ISO certification. So ISO certification just helps you to give.
It's more emphasis on risk management, on like business continuity and disaster recovery if it ever happens.
Okay. Nice. If we're talking about like trends in technology, what are some most exciting trends in technology side from the Mapon perspective that you would follow?
Well, it's no secret. I think the AI is an interesting thing, and there are lots of applications. Obviously, we're also in the this hype cycle at the very top. So elevated expectations and all of the rest of the bad things that are coming with that. But I still believe that there are lots of use cases in data analysis, in predictions, and in customer support, and quite a lot of other aspects where some productive use cases could be like very beneficial. We also have video telematics solutions, which is like we install camera solutions on the vehicles, which are also road facing and driver facing, and then that's a place where you cannot really live without any AI models that are tracking the performance of the driver, whether he's sleeping and driving and like using mobile phone and doing rest of the interesting things. Which
So
he
that
shouldn't be
means
doing.
that in the Mapon you're like creating some sort of own AI system.
Well, we do have some experiments right now.
Okay.
Obviously, we do use internally built models for the like video telematics.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
But we also actively experiment with the things that are happening. For example, we do have ongoing projects about fuel management solutions where there are interesting challenges. I will not talk into detail about that because that's a work in progress. But that's something that we really closely believe that it's the next thing, because like most of the like solutions in our industry is still at the stage where you have reports and then you have to analyze them, and that has to change to insights and signals where you have to pay attention. And that's where I strongly believe that this technology shift with the AI, with the machine learning models, with some predictions and things that it's hard to discover that from the reporting, from the charts, by reading by your own hands. But that's some sort of thing that I believe that's the next thing.
Well, the data and data analysis is like, I think, like gold at
Yep.
some point, because it's where all the information and all the money is. So yeah, data is definitely a good thing to analyze and see how it goes. Yeah. So if we're speaking, I think we have quite long episode already, but what would be your definition of success in life?
In life,
Yeah, in life.
like existential questions, right?
Yeah, existential. It's not a good question. It's like definition of success. It's quite simple.
Definition
question.
of success, I would say it's pretty simple. You have to be happy with the result, whatever that is, but you have to be happy with the result. Whether that's I don't know, you learn to play guitar or something, whether your kids are growing as good people, whether the company you are building is growing as expected or even better, but you have to be happy about the result, whatever that is.
Okay. And what is the most grateful, what are you most grateful for in your life?
Even harder one, right?
Of course. Those are the best questions, like at the end, you know, to understand.
like torture till
torture
the
to the end. Because about the career and company, it's quite easy to ask, right? But when you
yeah.
talk about more,
Well,
life questions.
it's probably the educational aspect of my life. I really think that the teachers that I have had in my life are good teachers, because some of them have discovered my ability to learn early on, and they have really pushed me in the right direction. And I know that there are a lot of people in the world which don't have like a clear career path, and the way how teachers have pushed me in the right direction, I think that's really like the reason why I have understood my career path early on, and that's why probably I'm where I am today, because like I've been understanding where I should be going.
Who was the best mentor in your life in that case, which you remember and gave you like the best piece of advice?
I would say that like the most influential was I don't know how it's in English, but that's like a teacher who is leading the class from I think it was grade 5 till grade 9.
Okay.
She was a physics teacher, physics and math, and that's probably why I do have like why I also love to work at Mapon, because that's physics, that's math, and etc. So I was also being pushed into the physics Olympics of Latvia. I was not having any places like on the top, but I was still participating. I did have very good teacher, and she was pushing me into the like this area of math, physics, and all of the rest of the things. So if I look back right now, I would say that from the teacher perspective, she was the most influential one and really having the biggest impact.
And from the IT perspective, from the career perspective, who would be most influential?
From the career perspective, I also had an interesting teacher in computer science in the high school, and he was really pushing me into competitions, in some online competitions, offline competitions that we were having, team competitions and so on. So he was really giving me challenges, and then that also probably the way of thinking that you have challenges in life, that you have to be better than somebody else, is something that probably is the reason why I'm progressing into my career, that I have to be better each day, and then eventually I'm here where I am.
Putting together small habits and improve yourself every day.
Yep.
Okay. So one last question from my side. As you're reading a lot of books, I was thinking maybe you have maybe you have one quote that is like your favorite quote, and you're like, this is the one.
I was mentioning also the thing that reading books improves your language and also writing skills and so on. I don't know the original source of this quote, but it's sometimes attributed to Hemingway. Mm-hmm. And the quote is that the first draft of anything is a shit. So basically it means that you have to, even if you write something, you have to reread it several times, make it better, and only then it's ready for publishing. And that's really something that I also do in my life, that if I write something, then I just make sure that I reread it half an hour later, day later, make it better, and only then it's ready for publishing. So that's probably it.
That's actually true. That's a nice one. Okay, I think thank you very much for joining us, and thanks everyone for tuning in to the Tech Effect podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. And
remember to subscribe and follow us if you want to hear more different type of podcasts on Tech Effect. So thank you. Thanks everyone.